I think that just that mindset of survival caused me to be homeless because I could exist. I wasn't living, I learned how to exist.
All that would be places that we could hide. Get high, drink.
And when you're existing and in the grips of an addiction, really nothing else matters. In the morning it was, I gotta get a wake up, and the rest of the day was spent chasing that high. Eating off the side of the road, I was living on a bridge. To see that change for my family was a little shocking. It was like, wait a minute, what happened? I grew up under a mom and two older sisters, no dad. Mom always instilled spiritual decisions. She tried to keep us rooted and grounded in doing good things. I was just a little bookworm, thick glasses, front of the class. I didn't want to be the outcast, so you start to do things that fit in. We used to skip class and get a 6-pack of Black Label apiece and drink that before we got back to school. Had my own place when I was like 17, 18. Started hanging out with big DJs. They used to have these piles of powdered cocaine on the table. That was the beginning.
At Roof Above, our mission is to end homelessness. I think research supports the idea that about 1/3 of people that are homeless because of their disease of addiction.
I began to lose jobs and places to stay. I had stole out of my mother's and sisters and family houses, so I burned a lot of bridges. But I couldn't go back there. On the streets of Charlotte, they called me Preacher Man. I wore a suit or shirt and tie every day. That was part of my image.
I wanted other people to feel different about me than I felt about myself.
It wasn't the norm. It wasn't how homelessness looked. He was very conscious about the outer shell. And it wasn't until he worked on his internal self that they lined up.
I was living across the street in an abandoned truck right off Brevard, and I knew the shelter was there for help, but I never wanted it. And I remember waking up one morning and there were flies and mosquitoes all around me. And I remember getting out of that truck and saying, God, if you'll never let me feel this again, I'll do whatever you want. I promise. The shelter winded up being the place that saved my life.
We are at the front of Roof Above on the North Tryon location. So this is where I started my recovery.
It was always open doors. I just wanted the safety of inside Roof Above and the staff, and that helped me because I started to clean up, and I wanted to continue to grow in recovery. My counselor told me, you would fit in at Sabre.
Sabre is a program for men who have lost everything because of the disease of addiction. The overall model is 3 months of treatment, 6 months of continuing care. For the entire 9 months, they receive the abstinence contingent housing. And after that, if rooms are available, they can actually rent rooms on a sliding scale to continue their recovery. And I remember the interview with Mr. President. Hey, Mr. President. His goal was to get his life back and return to the person that he was meant to be.
Understand that we were there to learn how to be men, to learn how to be sober men.
We teach a lot about relapse prevention, coping skills. So we do a lot with yoga and mindfulness meditation.
Yoga, I hated yoga.
How to distract your mind when it's determined to go out there and use again.
They gave us a coping skill called the ABC game. you thought of the letter of the alphabet and you thought about a sports or a movie star. You would say how it was tough to leave upstairs and walk through all the people we got high with and stand at the bus stop and people was around us getting high and everything. But I remember a guy was there and I was really tempted, but I did that ABC game. And by the time I got to Z, the bus was pulling up. And I remember rejoicing. And then I had to go to prison for something I did 8 years prior.
After 2 months, he decided to courageously face a former charge he had. And he was very concerned that he would be incarcerated for the rest of his life. We, as SABRE staff, made sure to let them know how well he had done and how serious he was about his recovery.
I went to court. Ms. Furman, SABRE, Roof Above was there to support me. They had offered me 424 months, which was life for me. And the judge looked at me and he was like, I can't do that to him. So he gave me 20 months instead of 420. I wrote Ms. Furman for 20 months every month. I got locked up 51 times in Mecklenburg County, went to prison 3 times. And that was the first time I ever was incarcerated sober, not high. It was 2 years. I was chaplain's assistant, president of AA, co-chair of NA. So I kept my focus in prison. So when I left prison, and they give you a ride to where you need to go, got out at about 6 that morning. At 7:15 a.m., I was knocking on SABRE's door. And I was like, I am not going backwards. And I stayed at SABRE for 3 more years. Just a gradual financial, emotional, and spiritual climb in a man's life. That's what SABRE does.
He was serious about his recovery. He was honest about his plight. So when I heard that he was going to be one of our employees here at Roof Above, I was not surprised at all.
It's the most magnificent feeling that I can describe, to be able to work for Roof Above as a case manager, to make it a 180-degree turn, to come back to the place that helped save your life. Roof Above is just ingrained into my spiritual being.
He has the heart for the work. His lived experience makes him more valuable to the guest.
Just trying to find a home is really hard. I initially moved to Charlotte to come co-parent with my son. Things wasn't working well with his mother and I, so I chose to move in a motel. My funds just was depleting, and that's how I became homeless. When I got to Roof Above, I was given someone to assist me in finding housing. I was directed to Mr. President. Mr. President's story alone just encouraged me. Most importantly, be patient and want what you say you want.
Mike, he was steadfast to get housed. The look on his face of relief and accomplishment, that's what we do this for.
To get back in the house, it was a great feeling. My son can come here, and stay with me. I got plenty of room for him to run around. In that sense, it's changed a lot, a whole lot.
He becomes an inspiration to them, and they look at him and say, this could be me. Someone overcame this addiction, someone maintained their sobriety, someone went back to college, someone came back to give back to the organization that helped him.
The pain, the misery, the lack of feeling human, all that can be overcome one day at a time. The actions you know that you did that's not part of you can become something that can help save somebody else's life. I am a recovering addict. I'm part of the ministry. I am, the biggest thing, a vessel of God. He has used my past to be able to build for the present and help others in their future.